What percentage of your staff did you fire at Twitter?
I think we're about 20% of the original size.
So how do you run the company with only 20% of the staff?
Turns out you don't need that many people to run Twitter.
I will create a government efficiency commission task, and Elon, because he's not very busy, has agreed to head that task force.
I want you to go Google SpaceX cost versus NASA. For every one launch NASA does, he can afford to do with the same amount of money 22 times.
Elon Musk loves cutting costs. So why did Tesla buy one of the most expensive industrial lands in all of Vancouver? Why were they more than happy to outbid any real estate investor? And what can real estate investors learn from this? Let's start by looking at what makes this property attractive to begin with. The property is very strategically located. It's located near the port. It has rail access connected to the property. It's close to downtown, and it's located near the airport. These factors are all amazing, but they increase the value for everybody, not just Tesla. So again, why was Tesla happy to pay this crazy price while others weren't? The answer is a hidden opportunity most real estate investors don't take advantage of. Let me explain it with this property that we own. All the leases of this property were expiring, meaning the property would soon be vacant. Now, most people think a vacant property is a bad thing, and it can be, because until you find tenants, you have no income, and usually that means the property is worth a lot less. But there's one strategy that allows you to sell a vacant property for even more than a fully leased one. And so for us, instead of renewing our leases or finding new tenants, we figured, why not see if we could sell the vacant property to a user? A user is a company like Tesla that actually plans on using the property for their operations. But still, why is a user willing to pay more for a property than it's actually worth? Take the Tesla location, for example. If having this location allows Tesla to generate an extra $100 million per year in profit, even if they overpay for the property by 5 or 10 million, that's nothing compared to the extra profit they'll generate by acquiring this specific site. And the reason a company like Tesla would happily pay more for a vacant property is because they can move in right away. Whereas with an occupied property, they would have to buy the property, manage it until the leases expire, and only then could they move their operations to that location. Which is not only extra work, but during that time, they also aren't selling any cars at that location. And so a company would rather just find a vacant property that they can move into right away. So why doesn't every investor just buy vacant properties and sell them to users? Let's go back to our property. There's a few reasons it worked for us and why it doesn't work for some other properties. First of all, your property needs to fit the user's needs. If your property has good features for warehousing and distribution, you're already in a good spot. To help determine if a property has good features, click the link in the bio for the cheat sheet that I use with my team. But in addition to that, each company will have their own list of conditions that need to be met to even consider your property. And so that's why it's hard to find a user to buy your vacant property. It needs to check a lot of boxes. And so if we use my property as an example, it has the following. A good location with low supply of small vacant properties. It has 40,000 square feet of additional land that can be used for outdoor storage. It has flexible zoning that allows for almost all uses. It has a small office component. And as I mentioned above, the building already has good characteristics for warehousing and distribution. In short, finding the right user for your property takes time, which leads us to the second point. You need to be able to hold the property vacant while you find a user. In other words, you still need to pay your mortgage and other expenses while the property is vacant, which is often not worth it. We got lucky because all the leases were set to expire at the same time. This let us list the property early, knowing it would be vacant within a few months. However, that only bought us a few months. Had the property sat on the market a bit longer, we would have had to continue holding the property vacant while we waited to find a user to buy the property. And so in summary, you'd ideally want the leases to be expiring soon, while still giving you enough time to find a buyer. That's why this isn't something that investors could always do, but it's something that they should always consider. The moral of the story is that if you have a vacant property or a property that will soon be vacant, it could be a good idea to test the market before signing new leases. See if you can find a user to buy it from you. Just in case some of you who got to this point are actually looking to implement this strategy, here's a little insider tip. It's a lot easier to do this with a smaller property for two reasons. If you need to hold it vacant for a bit, it's a lot less expensive, and there's just so much more demand for these smaller properties. And so that's why it's a lot harder to do this on bigger properties. That's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I appreciate it very much. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more content just like this.